This is our Project 2 poster, and we are Team 75. For this project, we made a Python program to model the efficiency and cost of a hybrid reservoir solar system. The system outputs 120 megawatt hours of energy divided evenly over 12 hours. The solar grid outputs 10 megawatts of energy every hour whenever the sun is out, and every instance that's the sun is not out, the reservoir system outputs 10 megawatts every hour. And this is how we went about solving the problem.
Have you ever wondered how to build the most efficient hydroelectric plant? Well, we did. Our goal is to determine the best location to build a hydro storage and solar cell energy production system while also providing a computational model as support for the suggested location.
Our project management strategy was pretty basic, but it was very effective. We began by making an outline for the code and then dividing the project for individual work. We had daily Zoom calls to combine all our individual work we had completed before the meetings, and together we combined them and created the model. Our team did not have assigned roles, but rather we rotated jobs within the team. To solve the problem, we used various calculation methods. We began with the universal accounting equation for finding the input energy we would need to create the desired output energy. We also used various calculations to optimize the efficiency and cost by comparing different sites and materials. Additionally, we calculated the intermediate values we needed, like velocity, by validating each unit with other units in the problem.
And so using this method, the results we generated for the optimal configuration is to use zone 3, and the overall cost being $647,976.55 with an efficiency of 74%. We also used the salvage pipe, which was 112 meters long with a pipe friction value of 0.05 and a diameter of 2.75 meters. For the pump, we went with the efficiency 0.86 and a flow volume of 40 meters cubed per second. For the turbine, we used a efficiency of 0.89 with a flow volume of 12 meters cubed per second. And using this configuration allowed us to fill the entire reservoir in 3.21 hours, as well as empty in 10.34 hours.
We excluded Zone 2 as our final suggested location because the lasting social impacts and the unknown costs associated with grave relocation were going to far outweigh any minor benefit that we got in terms of efficiency and cost. One thing we also did not account for was potential damage to the reservoir, for example, leaks, and the associated costs with those.
So in conclusion, we selected Zone 3 because it best balanced the economic, societal, and energy concerns that was presented with this model. And while there may have been alternatives out there that performed better in individual categories, this configuration with the zone and pump info is the best combination of all of these factors.
We use this reference as an extra factor of energy loss, where we found head loss on the exit of the pipe flowing down into the turbine and the exit of the pipe flowing into the reservoir. And we would like to thank Dr. Brophy for giving us an opportunity to learn in person and discover some of the resources Purdue has to offer. So now on to the code. We started by importing math and the SIMPy library. So these were our given parameters, and these are all our inputs. This was a loop ensuring that depth is less than 20 meters. And then these are some simple calculations for pipe area, the mass of the water in the pipe at all times, and then the velocity down, the velocity up, which is just turbine flow over pipe area, and pump flow over pipe area. Then the effective elevation, and this was part of the SIMPI library, which we used to solve for energy in. This was our initial facility cost of the pump house. And here we have conditions, which are also an input for each of the 3 zones. So we could compare the results of the costs along with the volume and mass produced by each of the reservoirs. Here we have conditions for the depth and how much each depth is going to cost. This is another cost for the on-ground pipe, which is the pipe flowing from the reservoir to the turbine. We wanted to make that on the ground so that we wouldn't have to worry about any structural supports on the way down. Here's the area calculation. And then these are all our calculations for the losses of energy. So we have our bend losses, our frictional work losses, the turbine and pump loss, and then these were the equations we found on that reference, which were exit head loss at the bottom and exit head loss at the top. Here we use the SIMPI library to get an array which solves, using all of these factors, it solves for energy in, and then we convert that energy into megawatt hours. And here we have the efficiency calculation, the time calculations, and the time conversions into hours. And we also, in the 3rd zone, which we ended up deciding that was going to be the best based on cultural factors and also just structural longevity, because we figured that a cylinder is going to last the longest, as there's no corners that might be weak and tend to break. So we had this calculation for the minimum mass, and we determined this number 12 by seeing how many times we could run the time to empty, and we wanted to make it so that our system could still run for about 5 days without having to refill. So that's why we have the times 12, because we determined that our time to empty times 12 would have been around 5 days. And this was the mass that was going through the pipe every single time the system is emptying. So we can run our program with all the executions that we chose to optimize the system in terms of cost and efficiency. So our pipe efficiency was standard. We used 40 for the pump flow. Volume, 2.75 as the diameter. Pipe length is 112 for zone 3, which we calculated using some basic trig. Then the friction is the porous frictional coefficient, because we wanted to save money. The depth of the reservoir is 10, again, to save money. Reservoir elevation is 65, that's given in the zones. We used the 0.3 for our coefficients of the bend because we noticed that it wasn't going to be too expensive, and this might be like something that we should optimize, or we should maximize, just because it's not that expensive. and it seemed worth it to us. The pump efficiency is also, the turbine efficiency is also standard, and the turbine flow volume is 12, which gives us that 10-hour calculation. So number 3. So here's all our data. Our pipe area is 5.94. These are our velocities. And then, as you can see, with the minimum mass of 7.9 million, we get a runtime of 5 days. And the time to fill is 3 hours. The time to empty is 10 hours. The energy in is 162, and the efficiency is 74%. So those are all our calculations. And that's basically it.